join the writing team?
No. I needed to think, and I wanted a quiet place to eat my lunch.
Oh, what's this?
Oh, you like it? It's the set design for our new series.
Well, I don't know if I like it, but it looks interesting. What series?
Oh, you know, Captain Arithmetic.
Oh, the math program for grade schoolers.
Right. Got trouble with your multiplication tables? Ta-da! Captain Arithmetic to the rescue. Anyway, this is the basic set. It's the Captain's secret headquarters.
Oh, Captain's underground cave. The dream of any 9-year-old.
Yeah, that's what I thought, too. You know, this may be the best set that I've ever done.
Oh, so when are you going to start building?
Maybe never.
What?
Well, I've got to convince the budget director that it's worth doing, and I'm not sure that I can.
Oh, what could he have against it?
Well, he says that it sounds too expensive, not to mention taking too much time to build.
Well, is it expensive?
Well, it'll cost more than most sets, but not as much as he thinks. See, I built a cave set a couple of years ago so that I know that I can come in under budget and on time.
Well, tell him that.
Well, I will. In fact, I have to give him a formal proposal this afternoon,
But what?
Well, I have a problem putting... I was going to ask you... Never mind.
Oh, Fred, I'd be happy to help you. In fact, we'll all take a look at it.
Look at what?
Oh, just something that I wrote. Thanks, Gwen.
Okay.
See you in a bit.
Good.
Gwen?
Uh-huh.
Well, couldn't Fred's problem wait for a little while? I mean, we do have an awful lot of ground to cover this afternoon.
Yeah, we gotta get cracking on that show about description.
And narration?
It's a good deed for Captain Arithmetic. Oh, but you're right, we do have a lot to discuss. So if you and Jenny are prepared, we'll get cracking.
I'm ready.
Likewise. How come I didn't get an assignment? I feel left out.
Well, you shouldn't. I didn't give you an assignment because I have a specific task for you now. I want you to be the student in the front row.
Okay, all right. What's the student in the front row?
Well, in my experience, that's the one that keeps the teachers on their toes, the one who always has her hands raised.
You mean the one who always knows the right answers?
No, the one who always asks the right questions.
Come again?
The questions that students typically have and teachers usually overlook.
And that's what you want me to do?
Yes. I want you to put yourself in the place of our telecourse students and try and ask the questions that they might have.
Okay, I'll try. I just don't know if I know the difference between a good question and a dumb one. Just hope I don't freeze up.
You? You're more full of questions than a 4-year-old.
Yeah, but I've never had to ask them on purpose before. All right, narration and description. Let's see, how... Well, what would,
Come on.
Okay. Why?
Why what?
Why study them? At least, why should our students study them? Most of them don't want to write novels like you know them.
No, but they do want to learn how to write well. And to do that, they have to know how to develop their ideas.
And we're going to teach 6 different ways of doing that. Process, and analysis, and definition, and...
Argumentation.
Argumentation. I should have known Norm would have remembered that one. And, of course, description and narration. If you want to write effectively, you have to have command of these patterns.
Okay, right. But the student in the front row still asks, why?
Well, because narration is a way of dramatizing your ideas. And not everything lends itself to a story. But when it does, well, I don't think there's a strong way to make a point.
Uh-huh. In essays, narration is usually used as an example. Remember the essay you wrote on presidential succession? And you included an account of the events that led up to Nixon's resignation?
Yeah, but I wasn't telling that just to be telling a story. I was working on how the system works.
But you used a narrative pattern because it suited your purpose.
Okay. Okay, then what about description? And that's good for poetry, but what good is it to me? Why should I care?
You know, you're turning into a real devil's advocate.
Yeah, you know, I think Gwen's created a monster.
And I think this is just what we want. Cassie, if narration is a way of dramatizing your ideas, then description is a way of making them more graphic, making them more forceful.
For example, your essay on presidential succession. You started out with a description of the Oval Office. Then you went on to point out that although the office itself stays the same, the men who occupy it change.
So I used description in my paper, too.
Yes, one reason for learning to write description is that it's impossible to write without it.
Okay, but what if you're not writing a school paper?
Well, everyone writes descriptions and narrations, Police officers describe car accidents.
Social workers write case histories, nurses write incident reports. You know, we've done a mini documentary on the practical uses of narration and description.
What uses?
Well, as soon as you set up the videotape recorder, and as soon as I find the tape, you'll see.
Ta-da!
Just about everything we do, every call we answer, there's some type of writing in it, like offense reports on burglaries, of course, traffic citations, and arrest reports. And I don't have any idea how many different report forms we have, but I know over 15 different reports that we use, one time or another.
Well, in their everyday practice, nurses do a large variety of writing and a large volume of writing also. A great deal of what we do is paperwork, surprisingly. They need to be able to do descriptive writing, and they need to be able to put their thoughts down in a logical pattern and a chronological pattern, if it's all possible. And they need to be able to do this as quickly as possible because they don't have to have a lot of time.
For an example, if we got a call on a burglary, to answer a burglary to a residence or something, we make what we call an offense report, and there's several different things that go into this report. I use a little rule of thumb, the who, what, where, why, when, and how. And all of these have to be in this report. You have to be sure and get all of the elements of a crime into your report. Everything that you can get in to possibly help the investigating officer, or even to help the prosecution, or even to determine the man's innocence. The more you get in, the better off you're going to be all the way through for everyone that handles the report.
Well, our nurses, when they are writing descriptive notes, have to be very complete yet concise. They are making observations and performing nursing actions on a group of patients throughout their workday. If the nurse has written everything that has happened to that patient on her shift as completely and as accurately and as briefly as possible, good quality care can follow, and it can follow without any interruption in continuity. And we also have to remember, too, that the record, the patient's record, is in addition to being a medical record, also a legal record. Consequently, you have very little margin for error. You have to be able to put it down right the first time. Nurses also do narrative writing. They relate the events that have happened throughout the day in a chronological order without omitting any event, but keeping out the extraneous. And you need to be able to organize your thoughts and get them down into paper. The narration has to be very precise. It's very important because many people have access to the records. Doctors will come up and read the notes that the nurses have made and base some of the orders that they write on those notes, and other healthcare disciplines will also base their treatments, and the nurses that follow on later shifts will also base their treatments and their care on the notes that are written in the medical record.
We describe the scene of an accident, the street, the positions of the cars, and sometimes in cases the clothing description of people involved, like on a burglary. We describe the scene, like the point of entry. The property that was taken has to be described in detail. And even on a traffic citation, we describe the vehicle. And on notes on the back of our traffic citation, we describe what the driver was saying, what he was wearing, and the condition of his vehicle. I'd say at least 75% of police work is writing. It's been reports from your basic traffic citation to just about every call that you answer. You have to write some type of report on it, whether it be just, criminal mischief, burglary, or, your major offenses. There's writing involved in it.
I like it, Jenny. Now, how do you plan to follow it up?
Well, one of the things I want to bring out about these patterns is that it's very seldom that you write pure narration or pure description. It's usually part of the piece of writing.
Of course, that's true of all the other patterns as well.
Yeah, but there's another point we ought to make, that narration and description are just like carpenter's tools.
Carpenter's tools.
Yep, when you build something, you don't just use a hammer or just a saw. You use whatever tools you need.
Oh, that's good. I like that, Cassie. The subject dictates its treatment.
I wonder where Fred is. He said he'd be...
He's here.
Good.
I got held up in the shop.
Captain Arithmetic needs rescuing, eh?
Well, if he's going to get his secret cave, he does. This is the proposal to the budget director. It's mainly a list of estimated costs and supplies, but there are a couple of parts that are giving me trouble.
So, this is a set for a cave, huh?
Yeah, it's the kind of hideaway every kid wants.
Well, what will it look like?
Describing it, yeah, that's the trouble spot.
The cave is well lit. It has stalactites and walls made of rock. A computer and Captain Arithmetic's shield are inside.
I don't get a clear picture.
Neither do I.
Well, what's wrong with it?
It lacks specifics, Fred. You need to be more definite. For instance, well lit. Now, that could apply to any place.
Yeah, but not to any cave. Caves are dark. But this one is bright and cheerful. But it's obviously underground.
Well, then say it. The cave is bright and cheerful.
Bright and cheerful. But obviously underground.
What's so obvious about that?
Oh, well, the stalactites, for one thing.
Are those the ones that go up?
No, those are stalagmites. These are the ones that come down.
I never can keep those straight.
Yeah, well, I had to look it up myself.
Well, the odds are whoever's going to be reading this won't know either.
Yeah.
So help them out. Say
The stalactites?
are attached to hang from the cave ceiling. Okay, what else tells us that the place is underground?
The walls, they're rock.
Not real rock.
No, they're made out of styrofoam, but they'll look real.
How do they look?
Rock-like. Craggy,
What color?
gray.
Okay. Well, add that to your sentence about the stalactites.
Okay. Stalactites hang from the ceiling, and the walls are gray, craggy rock.
That's it, Fred. You've got to give the reader the details of what something looks like. Now, what about this computer? Does it look like the ones in the business office?
Oh, no. It's a fantasy computer, like in a science fiction movie or a horror film. It sits on one side of the cave. It's got a TV set in it, with graphics just like a video arcade. And it's huge, it's enormous, and it's got all kinds of dials and switches and things that go, and those electric things, and that kind of stuff. Okay, and in the center of the back wall, there's another exit to the captain's garage. That's where the number mobile is. And then there are stalagmite stools in the front where people can sit. Then over here, on the cave's entrance, there are a series of rock-like ledges coming down from the outside.
Okay, Fred. Now, you know that, but we don't know that. What you have to do is write a description of what you're telling us.
Oh, you mean I need to describe the set in detail here? Okay. Well, let's see. How do you spell
With the
I guess
W.
you better leave that out. Okay, how's this? Captain Arithmetic's computer, 6 feet high and filled with dials, switches, and blinking lights, is on one side of the room.
Yes?
And on the other side is the cave's entrance.
Good. Now, Captain Arithmetic's shield, where is that?
It's right above the entrance.
Okay, so say that. And what color is it?
Red, white, and blue.
Good. Anything on it? A symbol or something?
Oh, the captain's emblem. It's a gold A surrounded by numbers.
Okay, we'll say that too. Now what do you come up with?
Okay. Okay, how does this sound now? The cave is bright and cheerful, but obviously underground.
Fred.
The stalactites hang from the ceiling and the walls are gray, craggy rock. Captain Arithmetic's computer, 6 feet high and filled with dials, switches, and blinking lights, is on one side of the room. On the other side is the cave's entrance. Over the entrance is a red, white, and blue shield with the captain's emblem, a gold A surrounded by numbers.
Well, that's good.
Sounds exciting. My kids would love it.
That's it. This really paints a picture now.
And you don't need to be a word painter to make the picture come alive. You just say clearly what you see.
1, 2, 3, easy as pie.
Huh?
Oh, that's the captain's cheer. Whenever he has a tough problem, he says, 1, 2, 3, easy as pie. We can do it if we try.
Oh, brother, I don't believe this.
Oh, I like it, Fred. I think it's cute.
Yeah, and I'd like to go there myself.
I knew you wouldn't like that, though.
Yes, Fred. Fred, this is for you.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll be right down. I've got to go down and sign for a load of lumber. I'll be back in just a minute.
Okay.
Oh, well, Norm, have you finished selecting the segment from the Barbara Rivas interview yet?
Yeah. Jenny, would you?
Who's Barbara Rivas?
She's an editor with a local publishing house. She handles all sorts of manuscripts, fiction, nonfiction. I even think I'm going to be sending her one of my novels soon. Anyway, this is about description and storytelling.
The trouble with beginning writers is that they get on with the story, that they have their story in mind, and they sacrifice their characters and their setting because they want to get on and tell you this story. And so it becomes very much like a documentary with a voiceover. You never hear the people in the film talk. You hear this narrator from somewhere. Well, that very much alienates you from the action, puts you outside of the action. So if a writer takes the time to make the reader welcome in his set, in his book, makes the reader smell the biscuits in the oven, feel the whiskers on the character's chin, you're introducing him to these people, you're introducing him to these places. Take the time to do that correctly. Use clear, concise, strong language. Don't rush on with your story.
This next part is about what makes effective description.
Like I said, it has to be very sensory. I think you have to take the time to go through the 5 senses. Maybe you aren't going to include all of them in your description, but think about those when you're writing. You know, think about smell and sight and hearing and taste. Try and put yourself in that situation, and then describe it to your reader. You can always edit out whatever may be overwritten, but you want to make sure that you convey all of those things that put your reader there.
That's it, Jenny.
Well done, Norman. Now, as a novelist, would you agree with what she has to say?
Oh, yeah, right down the line.
Well, how would you describe a football match?
Ah, trick question. I wouldn't. I might narrate it, though.
I don't follow.
Well, actually, to give you the feeling of really being there, I'd probably have to do both. The crowd, the cheerleaders, the band, all the colors, the atmosphere. That's description. Telling you about the plays, though, that's narration.
And description. Try to find a sports writer who just narrates the plays.
Right. Now, I could say, the giant fullback plowed grimly through the line of the green defenders. Now, that not only tells you what happened, but how it looked.
Cassie, if you were a sports writer, how would you organize your account of a football game?
Just tell what happened, I guess. I would start with the kickoff and go to the final play.
Cassie, if you wrote everything that happened, you'd have enough to fill a pretty boring book.
Well, I guess what I mean is I would tell about all the highlights.
Right. The writer has to choose certain events and ignore others. One of the points I want to bring up in this script about narration and description is that it involves being selective. Not only what you choose, but how you arrange it.
What do you mean, how you arrange it?
I mean that you can arrange your events for maximum effect. For instance, you don't have to start with the beginning of the football game.
But I thought you're supposed to stay true to what happened.
Yes, but you don't have to keep it in the same order. If the writer asks himself, what point am I making? His answer should dictate what goes first.
If the point of your essay was who won, you'd start off with a key play that determined the winner of the game.
But if you were writing about the potential hazards of playing football...
I would start with a player getting hurt.
Fast learner. So we have careful selection, arrangement for emphasis, and transitional words. Now, these are all things we have to stress. Now, I've worked up a micro lesson with the electronic graphics people about connecting words.
Oh, good. I'd like to see it.
Connecting words are terms like and or while or before. We hardly even recognize them, but they are important because we use them to connect events. Now, here are some examples that come from today's newspaper. Listen to how each one of them depends on transitional words. The burglars apparently broke into the building between 5 and 7, after the staff had gone home and before the janitor had arrived. After 12 hours of discussion, negotiators still had not reached an agreement. In the meantime, strike sympathizers continued to refuse to cross picket lines, soon bringing all work to a halt. Heavy rain is expected during the early morning. but skies should clear later in the day.
That's it. Now, you heard how I highlighted the key words, but when we normally read these words, we hardly even recognize them. But you can see how important they are. You, Fred!
Hey, Captain Arithmetic returns. Ta-da! Hey, sorry I was so late, but I had to unload the lumber. Thank you I really appreciate what you've been doing. And if the second part works out as well as the first, I'm going to have a really solid proposal.
Well, we'll help you.
What's the second part?
Well, I told the budget director that I could build the set on schedule and within the budget. Now I've got to convince him that I know what I'm talking about.
Well, you seem very sure of yourself.
I am. I've built a set like this before. Not as ambitious, but has basically the same steps. Here, let me read them to you. The set was completed 2 days ahead of schedule. It was finished $120 under budget. I had 2 helpers. We did it in 9 work days. We cut thick layers of styrofoam into the shape of a cave. The styrofoam was glued onto wooden frames. We painted it in a light gray. The set was for the cave of the Troll King.
Oh, excuse me. Did I miss something?
Okay, now what's wrong with it? I know all the ideas are there.
Well, you need more sentence variety, Fred, but I think the first order of business is to put the events into sequence. Now, your first 2 sentences.
The set was completed 2 days ahead of schedule. It was finished $120 under budget.
Now, they're about finishing the set, so put them at the finish of the paragraph.
Done. Now, what should I start with?
Well, your last sentence, the set was for the cave of the Troll King, that's information the reader needs to know up front. So take that and combine it with your 3rd and 4th sentences.
I had 2 helpers. We did it in 9 work days.
And you'll have a lead sentence that tells you who did what and how long it took.
All in one sentence?
Yeah, this way. 2 helpers and I completed the set for the cave of the Troll King in 9 work days.
I see.
Next, you say, we cut thick layers of styrofoam into the shape of a cave. The styrofoam was glued onto wooden frames. We painted it light gray. What should you do first?
The gluing.
Then why put it in the middle? Why not say,
First we glued layers of styrofoam onto wooden frames.
give this man a cigar. Then you can continue with the part about the cutting and the painting.
Yeah, but before you do that, what did you cut it with, a knife?
No, hot wire and rasps.
Okay, and what did you paint it with, a brush?
No, we spray painted a base coat and then we used a dry brush technique.
Okay, these are details, but they're important. You may know how you did it, but that doesn't mean that I did.
Okay, let's see. Cave shapes, hot wire. Okay, cut and spray paint. Okay, what about this? To make the cave shapes, we used a hot wire to cut the thick layers of styrofoam and rasps to create the final shape. We spray painted the set a light gray and emphasized the shapes by using a dry brush technique.
That's good. But it could be even better if you add connecting words to those sentences. You've already put one to good use.
Where?
Over here. First, we glued the styrofoam.
I get it. Now what if I said, then we used a hot wire.
And afterwards, we spray painted. And now what you've got is as simple as 1, 2, 3. I don't believe I just said that. And it breaks up the monotony of look-alike sentences.
Yes. And look, while you're at it, why don't you combine these 2 sentences?
Okay, the set was completed 2 days ahead of schedule and it was finished $120 under budget.
Yeah, into one.
Okay.
Yes, your sentences are fine, but too many in a row are boring.
Okay, let me work on this a second. Okay, we take those 2, put them at the end. Okay. And let's see, 2 helpers. First, and styrofoam afterwards. Okay, and those 2 here. Okay, let's see how this sounds. 2 helpers and I completed the set for the Troll King in 9 work days. First, we glued thick layers of styrofoam onto wooden frames. Then we used a hot wire to cut the styrofoam into the shape of a cave. Afterwards, we spray painted the set light gray and dry brushed the shapes. We finished 2 days ahead of schedule and $120 under budget.
That's good.
I even stayed awake this time.
Oh, no.
Well, look, if I'm going to get this retyped, I guess I'd better go.
Okay, take care, Fred.
Bye-bye. Good luck. Well, now that we've got that taken care of, what else needs to be discussed?
Nothing that I can think of.
Me neither. That is, of course, unless Miss Front Row here has some more questions.
Ms. Front Row understands. And if I understand, I guess our student will.
Fine. Well, I think that covers everything. Let's start writing and see what we can get finished by 5. Jenny, you work on definition. Norm, you finish your piece on narration. And Cassie, I want you to write an overall introduction for the program. Here are some research materials, and I'll do the summary and conclusion.
Okay. Gosh, I sure hope Fred gets his set approved. Captain Arithmetic. Hey, maybe when I'm finished with this project, I'll go help him with his. I can't stand the suspense any longer.
Neither can I.
Me neither.
Well, it's past 4:30 already.
1, 2, 3, easy as pie.
Okay, I can't either.
We would have heard from him by now if he'd been approved.
Too bad.
Oh, such a nice set.
It really was.
Well, let's find out once and for all. I'm going to call the scene shop.
Hey, Captain Arithmetic triumphs again! And this is going to be the best set that I've ever built. Thank you, guys.